5. So did you ever do a sequel to the Interzone Party? Or is that just a one-off?
No, I did 2 more sequels. I did 2 more after that.
Hell yeah. One
was called Taz. And in 1993, I moved to San Francisco.
Yeah.
I love Santa Cruz. I actually ended up moving back to Santa Cruz, but for several years, I wanted to be closer to what was happening with the tech industry as it was emerging.
Yeah, for sure.
And oddly enough, the first place it started to happen was not in Silicon Valley proper, which is in the North Bay. It was actually in San Francisco. There was a neighborhood called South Park. It's where Wired had their first office. And below that, Mark and Carla had moved from Colorado, and Mark had started to write for Wired, the guy who founded Boing Boing. And so Mark and Carla had an office underneath that in the same building, which was the, official, unofficial Boing Boing office.
Yeah, yeah.
And so like everything seemed, and all the raves or the big raves were happening in San Francisco. So I'm like, I think I need to be there instead of trying to commute from here, because you can commute from Santa Cruz to San Francisco, but you can go down the coastal highway, and it's 70 miles, or you can go over the mountain.
Yeah.
And it's a little shorter, but you're going over a mountain.
Yeah, yeah.
And in bad weather, it gets a little dicey.
Yeah, and 70 miles is no small trek either. And it's just like...
No, back and forth, it's like, it gets on your nerves.
And there's something to be said for, being at the center of it. That you can have more impact if you're actually at the center versus like trying to impact it from the periphery, as cool as that periphery might be.
Yeah, in 93, the internet per se had really not started to happen yet.
It's like just about to, right?
It was about to.
Yeah.
But what was happening in San Francisco was that area where Wired ended up setting up shop was called Multimedia Gulch. And all the CD-ROMs and all the games that were coming out on CD-ROM were all being produced down there.
Yeah. I'm like having a vague memory of the word Gulch attached to those early CD-ROM games. Yeah.
Because that area was called Multimedia Gulch, and everybody who was anybody like put their company over there, including Wired Magazine, who had just started. So like they had their office. Boing Boing put their office over there, such as it was. I mean, basically, I think it was a storeroom under Wired that they rented or something. It wasn't fancy,
right?
But they were there. Mark was upstairs working. Carl, I think, was downstairs working on Boing Boing. And so there was all this stuff going on. There was like all these big, cool raves going on. Macromedia was there, who I started working for. And so there was all this stuff happening. I wanted to be in that mix.
Yeah.
And everybody that I knew that was doing something in Santa Cruz in that realm had started to migrate to San Francisco, and as well as me. I was like, okay, I want to be there. I want to see this thing happen. So I moved. And I decided to do another cabaret-style event. Only I wanted to do it in San Francisco. So I called up all my weirdo friends.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, hey, let's do a Taz night and let's have everybody over. So it was like Peter Wilson, Hakeem Bey, Robert Anton Wilson, Nick Herbert, Rob Bresney, James Kenline, who you may or may not know. He's a famous artist who was doing collages.
Okay.
And he did a lot of magazine. He did a lot of magazine covers, but he did a lot of album covers.
Okay, word.
So Bill Laswell used him for a lot of the covers that he did for his label.
Word.
So Material was one of Laswell's.
That's exactly what I was thinking. So is this the Taz that the recording was made of?
Yep, the only one.
Dude, yeah, like I had a recording of that on my iPod when I was fucking 14 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, because my dad he's a fucking Luddite. He won't even mind me saying that, but some of his really good friends were part of the hacker scene in the East Coast and shit. And I remember being like, 4 years old in like 1994 and shit, and like we'd go and, my dad go hang out with my dad, and he'd go over to his friend Dave's house, and the smell of stale Camel cigarettes is forever associated with my childhood, just because of getting my mind blown by computers in this dude Dave's basement and shit. And
we all used to sit there and smoke while we hacked because And one of the things I remember doing back, because I smoked back then, was having to clean my monitor every night with all the yellow nicotine that would build up on the monitor. I'd have to clean it off with Windex.
Yeah. So like when iPods first came out, my dad's friends, these guys like build up his, iPod with all their recordings, and they had this like master ball, and Taz was on there, and so was Material, and so is like, all these Jello Biafra fucking spoken word things, and so it is wild for me because this was just like this artifact from some fucking fantastical realm that I somehow stumbled upon and like had my mind blown like way too early. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, when I did the show, I encouraged people to bootleg it.
Yeah.
And I had my friends Sound Photosynthesis, which is, you may have heard of them, may or may not have heard of them, but back in the early 90s, they were kind of the clearinghouse for any recordings, video or audio of anybody in the psychedelic realm.
Okay,
so
yeah.
They did all the Terence McKenna lectures and the trilogues with Ralph Abraham and Terence and Sheldrake and Robert Anton Wilson stuff and Timothy Leary stuff and John Lilly stuff, and like anybody in that realm, they were the ones that recorded it and distributed it. And so they did a recording, and I took a recording, an audio recording and a video recording, and I bootlegged it myself. And I told everybody, like, we're going to sell this, but like in the meantime, just put this everywhere. And I don't care. I'm not going to come after you for copyright or anything. It's like basically the reason I'm going to let Sound Photosynthesis distribute it is because there are people, especially then, that didn't know how to access pirate things.
For sure.
And didn't know what to do with it when they got it. And so I'm like, those are the people that are going to buy the tapes, you know, and that's fine.
Yeah.
They're like, I just want it to get out there.
Yeah. Because
as far as the show is concerned, like it was a perfect timing, because at the time that I put that show together, Time Magazine did an article about the cyber culture, and they covered Mondo 2000 magazine.
Yeah.
My friend Tiffany was in it. They used like a model to do all the cyberpunk look, and she was definitely the cyberpunk look. And so they used her as the model, and Bart Nagel from Mondo 2000 shot the photos. And so like they talked about like the ethos of these people, like at the time they were like, look at the cyber people,
Yeah.
And that was us. And they said the ethos of the cyber people is, and they named some things off, and like industrial music was one of them. And then they said the handbook for these people is Temporary Autonomous Zone by Hakim Bey. And then like a couple of weeks later, there's posters all over San Francisco saying Taz, A Night of Ontological Anarchy and Political Testing with Hakim Bey, Robert Anton Wilson, Rob Bresney, Joe Matheny. And so Nick Herbert. And I had no idea. I rented out this club, which was called Commotion with a K.
Yeah.
And it basically was an anarchist collective space. And I rented this thing out, and I had no idea that this was coalescing. I saw the article because I knew everybody in it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then I walk out the door the night of the show, and I look, and there's a line from the front of Club Commotion down the block, around the corner, and around the next block.
Jesus Christ.
And I'm like, holy shit. And then I went, oh, this is the magazine article. Oh, yeah. Everybody's here to see the guy who wrote Taz. And at that time, Peter had never appeared in public as Hakim Bey.
Oh, no shit.
And most people didn't know that the two were the same.
Was Hakim Bey more of a pen name or a character?
Both.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I thought.
Yeah. So I flew Peter in from New York, put him up in my house for a week.
Yeah.
Had Nick come up from Santa Cruz, stay in my house for a week. Brought Bob Wilson up, put him in my house because I had a fairly big house at the time, and in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And who else was there? Jim Kenline came down from Seattle where he lived, and then everybody who was anybody in the scene that week stopped at my house to see like one of those people, because they knew them, or they came by because they heard they were there.
Yeah.
So my house for a week was this revolving door of parties.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I had this giant dining room table, and I'd make like these big meals, and I never knew who was going to be there. I knew like the central characters,
right?
But then there was always 15 to 20 other people, like uninvited people who show up. So whatever, I'd feed them.
Was this spaghetti, or had you graduated?
Sometimes it was spaghetti.
Hell yeah.
Other times it was hamburgers. It wasn't fancy food. Like one or two times I went out and I got like good Chinese food and bought it for everybody, but yeah, it was mostly just like being I worked as a chef when I was in college, so I know how to cook.
Yeah. Oh, there's nothing wrong with spaghetti.
Yeah. I make some of the best spaghetti actually. Yeah. So I would like pizza, like I would just sit there in the kitchen. And I had this huge kitchen, this place I lived, and I would just like make all this food and like just and me and my girlfriend and some other people that lived in the building, we're servers, and we were just like, and then we'd sit down and we'd all have this huge meal, bottles of wine, boxes of wine. We'd just sit there and drink all night, smoke pot, hash, whatever people brought. Cause if people came, I'm like, cool, but bring something, bring a bottle or bring some drugs or something.
Yeah.
And people would show up, and then we just sit there until the sun came up and like have these long conversations at the table.
That's awesome.
And it was amazing.
Yeah.
And the event was amazing. The event went off really, really well. Like I said, the line was just incredible, blew my mind. And I wish I could have got everybody in, but I just couldn't. I literally broke the law with how many people I put in that space, because the people that owned the space were like an anarchist collective. And I'm like, look, I'm going to nut the butt everybody in here.
Yeah.
Until we can't. It's going to be like a Japanese subway scenario where like I'm pushing people to close the doors. And when we get to that point, somebody look at me and say, stop. And that's when I'm going to have to say no more, and we did that. And so, it was great. Like it was a really phenomenal night. The video's out there for free. If you want a higher quality than is on archive.org, my friends over at Falcon, Regional Falcon, are selling it on DVD.
Cool. And
there's audio, full unedited audio that you can buy through them, or you can download it from archive.org.
Oh yeah.
So it's not the full version on archive.org. There's like one or two things that aren't on there, but mostly it's like all the major players are on there.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it was huge. And the great thing is lots and lots of copies of the catalog got circulated.
Yeah.
Once again, I had people running around in fezzes and saying weird things and handing the catalog to everybody that walked through the door. And that was, I don't know, it was a couple thousand people at least at that show.
God damn.
And then like while they were still lined up before, like they had to be, some people got turned away. I had people walking up and down the line and working the line with the catalog. So yeah, it was a pretty important part of the distribution plan.
Yeah, it was a super spreader event.
It definitely was. It definitely was. So yeah, so that's really when we were in my house together, I took that as an opportunity, like call a summit meeting.
Right.
And say, okay, we've done several versions of the print, the Xerox version. We at that point, I think we even did one color offset print version of the catalog. So if anybody has that color cover, you've got something, because there weren't very many of those made. 500 maybe of those were made. So I had the summit meeting and I said, look, I want to take this thing to the next level. And the next level for me, I think, is going to be getting this thing onto the networks.
Right.
Because just about 93 is when the bulletin board systems started to get access to the general internet.
Yeah.
And so nobody in the room besides me knew what the hell I was talking about.
Wow.
Well, they had not experienced it.
Yeah, no, it's just like, again, like, yeah. They had, it was that new, and you were, I guess, that much slightly younger, involved in different things than them.
Yeah, and some of those people I actually got online for the first time, like that year. Like I went and got Bresny a well account and got him online.
Yeah.
A couple other people I got online and said, this is where you want to be. This is going to be the next thing. Because I was bought in. I was like, this is it. This is where it's going.
Was it an easy sell to the rest of them?
Nick understood conceptually what I was talking about, and he'd heard enough about the internet and been around, because he hung around the Mondo 2000 people.
Right.
So like, for him, it was like, oh yeah, that thing. Yeah. Okay. And then I think he pretty quickly got online after that.
Yeah.
But at that point, nobody was online except for me.
Right.
And I was trying to talk to Peter Wilson, and he was like, what are you talking about? So I took him upstairs where I had an office, and I sat him down. I said, okay, I'm going to show you, like, dialed up with my modem. And I said, this is a bulletin board system. This is what it does. And then I showed him a HyperCard stack because I had one on my computer. I'm like, this is a HyperCard stack, and this is what it does. And like, he looked at it, and he watched it, and he was respectful, but he was nonplussed.
Huh.
And then when I showed him the bulletin board system, and I was like, of course, I was like,
Yeah.
Gaga. And he just looked at it, and he's like, never forget this. He said, can it make me a sandwich? I just looked at him. I'm like, what? He's like, call me when it can make me a sandwich. And then we had some conversations after that. So basically, he was telling me, I'm not impressed and fuck off with this thing.
Yeah.
And so I had a conversation with him like, look, dude, I'm going to go digital with this thing, okay? And if you're not on board, that's cool. I understand. But I want to be respectful and say I'm running with this project in this direction.
Yeah.
And if you can't go with it, I'm cool with that. But I want you to know that I'm going to do it.
Right.
I'm not gonna like just run off on, because this is a project we're all doing. And if nobody else can follow me in this direction, this is where it's going, and this is where I'm going. And he was cool. Yeah, I'm fine. Do whatever. He was like very ambivalent.
Yeah.
And then later we had conversations around the dining room table, and he like let me know in no uncertain terms that the well, which I was hanging out on, was like run by Stuart Brand, and he was really not a fan of Stuart Brand and the whole vision of the tech vision. Like he was a Luddite. Peter was a Luddite.
Yeah. I mean,
and I said, like, yeah, but some of the stuff you wrote that in this project is like talking about black computer networks and like so
right.
So much like. But then I realized he was just like William Gibson, who wrote the Neuromancer trilogy, who talked about all these things that sounded like it was the precursor to the internet. He was like just thinking about things, like what things would be in the future. But he wrote that trilogy on a manual under a typewriter.
Right.
Gibson was not a techie in the beginning. I remember when Gibson first got online, he got on the well, and it was only like 94. So Neuromancer had been out for years.
Right. That's really surprising.
Yeah.
So,
I was, trust me, dude, I was surprised too.
I guess for like both these guys like that, it's like, I guess it's much more a case of prescience than endorsement.
Well, Peter explained to me, he said, when I was talking about black computer networks and people using those kind of things, I was thinking of people like you.
Right.
I'm like, oh, all right. He's like, but do I understand any of this stuff? No. Do I want to understand any of this stuff? No. And I'm like, okay, well, okay. I just want you to know, dude, this is where it's going, what I'm doing. This is what I consider the next stage of the project. And I wanted you to go with me, but if you can't go with me, that's fine. I'm just letting you know that this is where it's going, and you're probably going to be hearing about it. And so like he was fine with that, and I was sad that we were breaking up the band,
right?
But I also had a vision, and I wanted to realize that vision, and I had to go.
Yeah. Hey man, that happens.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm going solo, and I told Nick what I was doing. I'm like, so what it is I'm doing? Yes. Theoretically, I know what you're doing. Okay. Do you want to be part of this? Oh, no, I don't want to be part of that. I don't know anything about that. I'm like, okay. All right.
So there's definitely still like an aspect of like, oh yeah, these kids and their weird new toys. I don't know what it is.
Absolutely. That's absolutely what it was. And I was totally okay with that. I'm like, okay, like I'm going to miss the camaraderie of this us working together on this project, because we've had a lot of fun, but I see this new direction and I want to go there, and I'm going to go there. So it's either going to be this project or another one.
Yeah.
And I'd like it to be this project because I'd put so much blood, sweat, and tears into that project, and I'd done so much with the Meta Machine. There'd be more, but like I'd already put a lot of time and energy into that.
Yeah.
I'd like to just move forward using this momentum. And they all said, cool, do that.
Yeah. Was it like going off on the solo act, so to speak? Like, was that weird Or did it feel different than like having I don't know, full control over a thing? Or you just not even thinking about that?
I was already, in a lot of ways, I was already running everything behind the scenes in a lot of ways.
Sure.
I was definitely putting more time into it than anybody.
Yeah. Got you.
Yeah, I was like the distribution guy, and I was coming up every day. I was coming up with new ways to distribute this thing, new forms to distribute it in. I was like just constantly, it kind of taken over my life as an art project.
Yeah.
And that was fine because I was very enthusiastic about it, and I saw it fitting perfectly into this nebulous, ill-defined, yet to be defined direction that I wanted to go. And so I said, well, I want to go into this new direction, and this new direction is definitely going to be digital. And so I've already spent all this time and energy into digitizing this thing.
What you didn't fundamentally change much. You just kept going on the track that you were on.
Yeah, I was actually already doing it, more or less.
Yeah.
It's just that I never actually had said to everybody,
right.
Okay.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
Here's this new thing that I already know about, that I'm already going in this direction. I'm already using it to distribute this content. None of you know about this.
Right.
I mean, you know that I'm doing it like in words. You're like, and I'm doing the digital thing, and everybody nods their head. But nobody really knew what I meant. And so like I had them all in the same house, and I'm like, okay, look at what I'm doing. And I was hoping they would catch the bug.
Yeah.
And nobody did.
Yeah.
Because they didn't understand the bug. Much later, people like Nick, got on board heavily with the internet.
Sure.
But like at this point, like the internet was a thing that like most people didn't even have access to.
I mean, it reminds me when I'm trying to show people in my real life, like what I think are some batshit insane things I've accomplished, like coaxing LLMs into doing. They're just like, look at this. And they're just like, what?
Huh?
Yeah, but like, I don't want art made by a robot. And I'm like, it's not art. I did a feat, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, the same thing. So like I did not have, it's a good time to say this. I spend a lot of time and have spent a lot of time, as you can tell from me telling you the story, in trying to define what it is that I was doing.
Right. Yeah.
And that's mostly so I can come up with some sort of all-inclusive term.
Right.
So the analogy that I came up with is tell me if this works for you.
Okay.
There's this thing called a cake.
Like,
and a cake is made up of a couple of things. Flour. It could be made up of flour, butter, milk, eggs, sugar, flavoring like vanilla, chocolate, even nuts. Like all these things can be in a cake.
Right.
But when you try to tell somebody like you want a slice of cake or you're going to make a cake, you don't sit there and list off all the ingredients.
Right.
You just say, I'm going to make a cake. And everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They assume that it at least has flour and sugar and eggs and water and butter.
Yeah.
And then it probably has vanilla and chocolate or something like berries, or it has something else.
Yeah.
But nobody has to sit there and go, but what is a cake? Like, can you define a cake? What's all the pieces that are in the cake? Because it's a constellation of things that's known as a cake.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So instead of trying to like define the cake, I was trying to come up with something like the word like cake.
Yeah.
And I was throwing different things against the wall. Living Book, over the years, other people picked it up, and like alternate reality game was implied, transmedia was applied. And then eventually, like, I finally like got tired of other people defining it, me trying to define it. It was exhausting.
Yeah.
And it was getting in the way of actually doing the work with the thing. And so I just like, you know what? I was living in Santa Barbara at the time, and I was working with the UC Santa Barbara group that was doing interdisciplinary work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? That's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, that's,
and that goes back to the 70s.
That's what it is. Just kind of a new form of this interdisciplinary art.
Yeah. It's just interdisciplinary art. It's just that the other disciplines, the disciplines that are being applied are newer disciplines that haven't been applied before. But as an umbrella definition, interdisciplinary art can assimilate anything.
Yeah. I mean, even just fucking art, it
can be wood on canvas with paint and glass. You know what I mean? You can just keep going. Like pottery, like all these
The
things.
piece is the piece, whatever it's made.
Yeah.
Because it's like, because one of the processes, or like the processes you're using are, essentially what they're distributed and they're networked and it's about that. It's like, there's not one thing you can point to and say, this is the piece, this is the cake, this is what it's made out of. But like there is, but when you're pointing to it, you're not pointing at a physical, a dimensionally bound object.
Right. You're pointing to it. You're pointing to a concept.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like, so like, Cocteau, Jean-Claude Cocteau,
Mm-hmm.
he went through the same thing. And he eventually said, because he did a lot of things. He did ceramics, he did painting, he wrote plays, he made movies. And he was like always trying to come up with like, this inclusive definition of what he did. And he finally said, I do poetry.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Everything I do is poetry.
Yeah.
Painting, ceramics, plays, movies, books. It's poetry. It all falls under the auspices of poetry.
I like it.
And I said, okay, yeah, I like that. And I understand the mental exhaustion that would put you in that place of just going, it's poetry, fuck off. Because people ask you and then you try to define it and then you spend like 15 minutes running around the room with Post-it notes and some red twine.
Right.
Sticking push pins into the wall. And you're like, wow, can we just talk about the thing and just like stop trying to talk about what the thing is?
Yeah.
Because the thing is not definable anyway.
Right.
Because it's never going to stop adding and subtracting if it's real art, if it's living art, as I have said in the past, it's a living art form. It's always going to be morphing. And if it stops morphing, that's when you retire.
Right.
Or as my friend Diane DePrima and I had this conversation once, and she's like, you have to, as an artist, you have to be like an acrobat. You have to keep going forward on the wire and turning flips and keep moving. And the minute you stop moving, you're done.
I think I heard you use the term graffitiing the noosphere.
Yeah.
I fucking love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was just thinking of like, really what I was describing is I would like to create a legend, a universal legend, using the medium of the internet, which I saw as the easiest way to do it, since all the other forms of media had gatekeepers. So could I make a TV show? Probably not. Mm-hmm. If I even got into a position where somebody would let me make a TV show, they wouldn't let me make the one I wanted.
Right.
I already knew that from talking to people I knew that had tried.
Yeah.
And they're like, they're not going to let you do what you want to do. Or publishers not going to let you do what you want to do. They're going to stick an editor on you. They're going to talk about marketing people are going to tell you have to do this and that. It's like none of these gatekeepers are going to let you through the gate with what you want, which is basically something that could overthrow reality in a lot of ways. Right?
Yeah.
And so I was just young enough to think I could get away with that and dumb enough to really believe that I could and to try it.
Yeah.
And now I saw this one thing that never had been there before, which was, at least in the beginning, the internet was this distribution mechanism that had no gatekeeper.
Yeah, it was a vulnerability.
And I knew how to use it.
Yeah.
And most people didn't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I can get out ahead of the media people at that time, especially the media groups were just ignorant of all of this stuff. It's like, for example, Adam Curry ended up with MTV.com before MTV did, and they had to buy it from him because they didn't know to buy their own fucking domain.
Yeah.
So like all these media groups at the time in the early 90s, in the mid 90s, were poo-pooing the internet. It's like, they're like, it's like CB radio. It's a flash in the pan. It's not going to last.
Right.
We don't need to pay attention to that. We're the vanguard, the media. We don't need to pay attention to that. They found out they did.
Yeah.
But at this point in history, they didn't think they had to pay attention.
Yeah.
And they weren't paying attention. And so somebody like me could just walk in and sneak right through the door and start doing my distribution, and nobody was there to tell me I couldn't.
Have you always been the type of person to like have the confidence in like the thing that you see and know that no one else does, or do you have to develop that?
Yeah. No, I always had it.
Word.
I think it was partly ignorance.
Yeah, it is.
I had not been beat down yet. Like no big media group came along and just beat me down.
Yeah.
So I didn't. I'm like, yeah, you don't even know what I'm doing. I'm over here in the shadows. You guys not even paying attention. Now, eventually they did, but it took a while.
Right.
But by then I was already established. I was off and running.
Right.
So, there was nothing they could do for me. What I wanted to do, they didn't even know what it was. I mean, because of the people I knew, I got in the door. I got in the room, as they say in the media.
Yeah.
With a couple of people, and I'm not going to name names, but I got in the room with people that ran, record companies, gaming companies, publishing companies, and I pitched them the idea of what I wanted to do, and they didn't even know what I was talking about. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do it then, since you don't know what I'm talking about, and therefore it's not a market you're even paying attention to. I'm going to make it a market for myself.
Anyone else who had like an idea that doesn't fit neatly into a box, like without the ability, wherewithal, and courage and insanity to just do it them fucking selves, like there's a lot of ideas that aren't easily explained and never get off the ground because you can't fucking sell it.
Right. And this was a time, because I was coming out of the whole underground, the computer underground. It was a time where there was a lot of pie in the skyism.
Right.
I even had people in meetings, parties, people from the, more established media, established computer realm, the business part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like at parties, like people that I know would be like, "Hey Joe, tell them that thing you're trying to do," and I'd tell them, and they just like kind of look away and like roll their eyes and say, "There's a lot of hand waving," it's like they would like be very dismissive, and I'd be like, "Okay, that means you don't want to do it. It means like one less person that's in my way."
Yeah.
That's how I looked at it.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for them to tell me I was right. I knew I was right.
Yeah.
And like the honest truth, now that I'm older, I could have very well not been right.
Right.
None of this had to happen the way it did.
Of course.
But I was in the right place at the right time, and I'm really good at reading signals.
Yeah.
And so for speaking of Gibson wrote a book. God, I wish I could remember the name of it. Where he had a group of people that were something called cool hunters.
I know.
It'll come to me.
I know the term, but
yeah, it was later. It was like early 2001 or something like that. He wrote the book. Anyway, it's people that can look at emerging trends and go, this one's going to make it. This one's not going to make it.
Right.
And that actually ended up being my job for a while in Silicon Valley. Much later in my life,
yeah.
Because I had a track record of looking at things and going, that's going to make it. That's not going to make it. It wasn't just my gut. It was also because I knew what it was leveraging inside and out. Technically, I'm like, that's like, hey, what they're saying, it's probably going to be capable in a year.
Yeah.
And then I'd read a business plan and I'd look at it and I'd be like, that's vapor. That's not going to happen for 10 years.
Right. Yeah. There's been a lot of times throughout my life where, if I had just had a bit more self-confidence, I'd be fucking filthy rich at this point. Like, because I've always been able to like call things just like that's going to happen. And then I just don't like, I'm working on not being as easily influenced by others' opinions and just being able to be a little more courageous and willing to be wrong, I suppose, is the muscle to develop.
Yeah. There's like I said, and I'm not kidding. It's like partially just ignorance.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, because, like to take it to tarot, where does the journey start? Starts with the fool.
Yes. Yeah.
And the fool doesn't know what the fuck he's doing and where he's going.
Right.
He's about to step off a cliff, actually.
Yeah.
Right? He doesn't know what he's doing. Parsifal in the pre-Christian Grey legends does what he does because he doesn't know he can't.
Right.
That's the only reason he succeeds is because he doesn't yet know that he can't. He hasn't learned. He hasn't been beat down to the point where I can't. It's like, no, you can. All you have to do is act like you know what you're doing, and you can only really do that. I mean, really do that if you're self-delusional or just stupid.
Yeah.
And stupidity can get you a long way.
It really can.
And so I had all this knowledge about how this technology worked, which most people at that time did not have. Like the things that I was steeped in, technologically steeped in, were things that weren't commonly used yet. So like email was something that even businesses were only starting to realize that they might need.
Yeah.
In 93. The internet definitely was like, what? Isn't that like CB radio? That's a hobby thing, you know?
Yeah.
So I knew all the protocols and how it worked and all of this stuff, like, and nobody was using it commercially.
And you saw the fundamental thing that hadn't been really brought to bear yet, like the thing that.
And I just looked at it and I'm like, there's a big giant distribution network that's not being utilized.
Yeah.
That has millions of people at the time, millions of people on it that I can potentially reach every one of those people somehow. And they're not all going to be my people, but I can get in front of enough of my people that it would make it worth it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean monetarily. I just mean like from a distribution standpoint, enough people, I can get in front of enough people that if even 5% of the people I can get in front of, that's a large number.
Yeah. There's parallels between the internet and LLMs in some ways, I think.
I think the fact that you're in the position that I was in, that I'm describing, is like I was like riding a wave that was just starting to happen.
Yeah.
And so are you.
Yeah.
Which is the best time to be involved because eventually the money people are going to ruin it.
Right.
They kind of already started to.
Certainly already did.
Yeah. And they've gotten quicker. They've gotten quicker in that response.
Yeah.
But you can still like you're still in the area where like not enough people know what's going on that you can still get away with things. And that's
right.
really where I was. I was in a place where not enough people knew what was going on to stop me from doing what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I was in a position of knowing how everything worked. And so I could do anything I wanted to do. Nobody even knew what I was doing.
Right.
Like I had more than one employer tell me as years went by that we don't know what you do, but we know that when you stop doing it, everything stops working. And so that's where I was at this point in time.
Yeah.
So like the only now you have to remember that like where we are in this point in history, the only access that most people had at home was dial-up.
Right.
Most people didn't even have that.
Yeah.
People like me had dial-up. And so like one of the things that was standing in my way for this project was like I needed highly expensive internet connectivity and a lot more computers.
Yeah.
And computers at this time like were expensive as hell. So luckily I got a job doing development for an IVR, interactive voice response.
Oh, is that like, call up a pharmacy, you got to talk to them and they make you go through the whole rigmarole of talking to the robot on the other end?
Yep.
Or
so this goes all the way back to the early 90s.
Yeah.
So IVR has been around for a while. Some of it, like at that time, voice response was getting better. I got hired on to do this development of this project, and it was like 3 blocks from my house, and they just gave me a key, and it had a fractional T1, I believe, as a connection in the building, and there was like 6 state-of-the-art HP computers, I think they were HP, running 3.1 and Windows 3.1 and running Fox Pro. And so I worked, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But the rest of the time, I had a key to the building, and the guy that owned owned the building and owned the project. I said, what if I get an idea in the middle of the night, and I live right here, if I just want to roll in and I know the alarm code, I'm like, what if I come in and work in the middle of the night? He's like, I don't care when you come in and work. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'd go in 8 to 5 with everybody else so I could be there for the meetings and to be face to face with people and exchange ideas. But the rest of the time, since it was in my neighborhood, I'd just roll in and do whatever I wanted to do. And you can imagine what I was doing.
Yeah. What at this point, what were you hoping to do with this project? Like, were you trying to do the thing that it ended up becoming, which is, seeding a mythos Was that the original, like?
Yeah, but I was at the stage in the project where I was trying to come up with ways to distribute the information in an automated form 24 hours a day.
Okay. Ways to distribute the information in an automated form 24 hours a day. Word.
Which is hard to do on a dial-up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you've got a fractional T1 and machines that you could, in Unix, we used to call it cron job. In Windows, it's called the AT job. But basically, it's like an automated time job.
Yeah.
It's like I can say at this time of night, 3 o'clock or like 9 o'clock at night to 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Log into the internet and do these things.
Yeah.
And so I set up AT jobs because these are all Windows machines. I would set up AT jobs. I'd go in.
Yeah.
Like a little bit after hours, I'd set up AT jobs and I'd set them to run. I'd have them shut off before anybody got there. I'd go in, do my whatever I was doing. Check in on my project and look at like what's going on there. Did it do some things? Where did it fail? How can I improve it? And basically just like sit there and do that, working, days for the IVR project and working nights on my own project. Didn't sleep much, but back then I didn't seem to need much.
Yeah.
Drank a lot of Jolt Cola.
Hell yeah. That's so, it's just fat. Like, yeah, you're building an engine.
Yeah.
Storytelling engine, a mythos engine.
Yeah.
Fucking right.
So what can it do? Like, I would, and this was like, there was no off the shelf software. There was no ecology of software at the time. So all the stuff I was having to write from scratch.
Yeah. You had to invent all the processes by which this thing functioned.
Yep. And I was spending a lot of time on the well. Because the people on there were like, Stuart Brand's Whole-Earth Electronic Link. It was like there was a lot of super brains and a lot of people like that were in the psychedelic culture and people in the rave culture. Like it was my people.
Yeah.
And then the well at that time was the #1 bulletin board system in the world. And the well had started to get written up, literary journals, and like everybody that started Wired was on the well.
Yep.
In fact, Wired started as a well forum. Oh, that's where it first started, and then it became a magazine. Boing Boing, same thing. They had a well forum. I had a well forum that was private. A lot of the people in those other forums were in this one, but it was like basically private. I didn't want just anybody to stumble across this thing.
Right.
Because it was ideas that I didn't want to be bothered with people asking dumb questions. Yeah. I mean, I hate to sound that way, but this is true.
That's the short way to say it.
Yeah. And so I got the people in the forum that I wanted in the forums that could have the conversations that I wanted to have. One of the people was John Lepkowski, one of the guys that started Fringeware. And he was also an admin on the well. And the well had a Gopher site that was just going for the time, it was going gangbusters. And like all these documents were being distributed. And then John said, hey, why don't you put that stuff you're doing, why don't you put that on the Gopher? I'm like, oh, okay. And
Gopher is
it's just a protocol.
Okay. It's like it's just file sharing.
It's file sharing.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
So and the well had like the most popular Gopher on the internet at the time. So there was like all kinds of stuff on there, like there was Robert Outtown Wilson stuff on there, Timothy Leary stuff on there.
Yeah. Stuff
on Wired, and then the Incunabulous stuff, which had its own little section. And it became one of the most popular things that got downloaded on the Gopher. Like, this doesn't sound big, not now and not as it, and definitely not later for the OngsHat stuff. But at the time, I was doing 500 documents a month, and I wasn't having to print any of it and mail any of it.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is that it was saturating,
and it was worldwide.
Distribution means in the infancy of this distribution means.
Yeah.
And as that grew, so would the Incunabula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people were grabbing that and then putting it on, bulletin board systems. I was putting it on other bulletin board systems as well. But the Well Gopher was like a consistent 500 a month or more a month. That was like going out the door, and I didn't have to do anything.
and just growing exponentially.
And it was going worldwide.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. Like, I didn't have to incur long distance charges for the bulletin board systems, which, back then long distance was still a thing.
Right.
So if you called a bulletin board system outside of your area code, you were getting charged by the minute.
Yeah, because you were making a phone call.
Yeah, which got charged by the minute.
Yeah.
And you could run up a bill pretty quickly. So there was a guy in San Francisco, Wayne Gregory, who set up a bulletin board system called SFNet, which was a San Francisco bulletin board system. And then he basically came up with a way to put a computer in a table, put a glass top on it, put a keyboard and a mouse on a tray, cover them in plastic. So if you spilled anything, it didn't have a short. And, basically attach it to the thing so it wouldn't be stolen.
Yeah.
And put them in coffee houses all over San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
So SFNet was like one of the first people to do that. This guy, Wayne Gregory, who I met because we started working together at one of the first PvP-enabled ISPs that opened up in San Francisco. And I met him, and I was like, wait, you're the guy that does SFNet, He's like, you're the guy that does OngsHat. I'm like, yeah. So, like, we hit it off. And I was like, dude, you got to tell me how you're pulling some of this shit off, because, like, this has got to be killing you. Like, it's got to be breaking your back with the cost. And then, like, I think it's long enough to say these things now that, like, Wayne took me under his wing and said, I'm going to show you how I do this. And so basically back then, a phone line would cost you more if it was for a business than if it was for personal use, for residential.
Sure.
But there'd been a new development in phone cost, which, to be competitive, companies like AT&T, Bell, well, whoever, had to price out a cost for a fax line, which would be a secondary line in your house, cheaper than the residential line, because nobody was going to get two residential lines at that cost, because it was cost prohibitive. But you could get a second line and call it a fax line. Absolutely no difference in the two lines. None. It was the same exact kind of line, but they told you it's a fax only line. No, it's just a line.
Yeah.
And Wayne told me that, and then he said, basically what you do is you find an apartment building that you can get into the basement of. You don't have to live there.
Yeah.
You order fax lines for the apartments in those buildings. You show up there, like when the guy is doing it, just like, watch him do it.
Yeah.
When he leaves, you can take your punch down tool, which I used to walk around with a butt set and a punch down tool and like a belt and all these things. Like, I looked like somebody who worked for the phone company.
Yeah.
Because I was a freak. I was just called a phone freak.
Yeah.
And then we would punch these things down and forward the lines, manually forward the lines.
Yep.
Because we knew how to do it. When you want to do something for a bulletin board system, you have the phone dial into what's called a phone bank.
Yes.
The phone bank goes to a hunt group. The hunt group says 555-0001 to 555-1111.
Yeah.
Is part of the group. And every number in there is in the hunt group.
Okay.
0002, 0003, 0004, right?
Yep.
So those all dial in to a hunt group. Those dial into a phone bank, which is basically, you run it through a modem bank.
Yep.
And every one of those phone lines makes a connection to a modem.
Yeah.
So if you dial any one of those numbers, you dial into a modem bank.
Right.
The modem banks are basically forwarded from these lines that we were faking into these apartment buildings and office buildings, and like basically we'd find a phone room somewhere that somebody wasn't using most of the lines, and then we would accommodate them.
Yeah, you just hijack the lines.
We'd hijack the lines and then we'd forward them into this modem bank. The modem banks, which Wayne showed me how to build this, you're going to laugh at this. In my case, they were under my bed on rollers. There was like this little shelf thing he showed me how to build. It was just like lines of modems on these things on caster rollers that rolled under your bed. So like you didn't take up your floor space in your apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all these things were like popping into these modem banks. These modems were like going out into what's called a portmaster. And then a portmaster was dialing, like making the connection to whatever you're doing. If you were going to the internet, if you were going to a BBS. In my case, the most it was doing, like all the modem banks were coming in and going into a computer that I had in my spare bedroom, which was my own BBS.
Yeah.
So in doing all this, I learned everything I could about how the phones worked,
right?
How modems worked, how bulletin board systems worked, how you access the internet,
the whole flow
how you did it without paying for access to all these things that most people paid for access to.
Yeah,
and you did it all on a pretty cheap budget. And some of the things were sketchy,
sure,
but they were workable. And occasionally, like, I'd notice a line died, and I'd go back to the apartment building and I'd see that the phone guy has showed up, and I'd just hack what he had done and redo it, and then they'd catch it again, and then eventually they'd get sick of me and they'd put this thing out, they'd screw it over so I couldn't use the RJ11 anymore to use to like click into it. But I knew how to hack that too. I eventually didn't do that too much because like then they'd start looking for you. Then they're like, okay, who's doing this? We want to know who this is. So I just keep moving around, like just keep moving around. So, and there's other, I mean, I don't want to give away too much, but
of course.
There's other things you could do that if you knew where the box for the neighborhood was.
Right. Yep.
You wouldn't even have to go into the basement of somebody's apartment building or business. You could like forward it off the box. You could go anywhere you wanted with it. You could have that modem call another modem. You could basically just have it do whatever you wanted to do. So you had all these lines virtually coming into your apartment. They were running through this bank of modems that was sitting under your bed. I mean, that's how Wayne was running SFNet. I couldn't believe it when he showed me. I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, he's like rolling these things out from under his dining room table. I'm like, that's it. That's SFNet. It's like under your dining room table. That's fucking so cool. Awesome, dude. Yeah. But he showed me all kinds of things that like really accelerated like everything I wanted to do. Like suddenly I could run a bulletin board system out of my bedroom apartment.
Right.
And it's all because Wayne had done all the hard work before me. Like Wayne got this vision again, like this is vision.
Yep.
He got a vision of wanting to run a bulletin board system that was just for people in coffee houses in San Francisco that was coin operated. So basically he put a coin operated computer that he built himself in the coffee houses on a glass table.
Yeah.
So the monitor was under the glass and you could see it. And then the keyboard, the little keyboard roller thing was like rolled out and it was like completely covered in plastic. So it like shrink wrapped plastic on the keyboards.
Yeah.
So like you couldn't spill anything and ruin it. And then like, I can't remember, it was like per minute or per half hour or 15 minutes or something like that. It was a little quarter fed thing. And so in order to actually turn on the computer, you had to drop a quarter in it. And then it came on and it was accessible.
Yeah.
And he did this all himself out of his apartment. Well, because he was a brilliant guy. You can look him up, SFNet. I think there has to be a Wikipedia entry on him.
Certainly, there definitely is. I've heard the name SFNet many times.
Yeah. So Wayne Grigori was the guy that was the mastermind behind all this. And he had a day job just like me. He was working at SlipNet.
Yeah.
And we were the first internet service provider in San Francisco that provided point-to-point protocol connection, which is the first non-slip connection that you could get that would allow you to browse the World Wide Web. Because you couldn't just do it with a dial-up connection. You had to do point-to-point protocol. Before that, you had to have a slip connection, which was like hard to get, expensive, and it took some work.
Yeah.
You could lease a slip connection from like an ISP, but it was cost prohibitive. It was definitely something a business would do, but not an individual.
Right.
And so Ted, the guy who started SlipNet, who started his career in 900 adult numbers And then he branched out into 900 bulletin board systems where you could like download pictures. And I think we know what kind of pictures they were. Yeah. Which would like take you forever to download. And then he saw this internet thing happening. He's like, this World Wide Web thing is going to happen. Again, another visionary.
Yeah.
This worldwide thing is going to happen if we can come up with a way to cheaply provide a user at home a way to access the web.
Yeah.
And the way to do that was like this new protocol came out called PPP, or point-to-point protocol, that you didn't have to have the slip connection. You could do it over dial-up. It was software enabled. But the ISP had to be there to accept the call and to make the handshake with the point-to-point protocol.
Right.
And Ted already had all this equipment and all these phone lines. He had like multiple T1s pulled into this office building, and he's like, I can just do that. I can just do it, an ISP. And he just went out and bought a bunch of Spark Ultra Enterprises, and then started hiring people like me and Wayne. He's like, we're going to do a PPP enabled ISP. We're like, okay.
I love the physicality of this era of figuring out how to make that shit work. It's just like, we're so far removed from it now that like, yeah, you forget that these are like, it kind of really was a series of tubes, you know?
No, it really was.
Yeah.
It really was, because there was so much physicality at that time. So like, for example, I'd call up AT&T and I'd say, we need a T1. And then the guy would show up and he'd do something in the street, under the street. And then he'd show up at the door to the data center, and he'd say, I'm going to pull the T1 up through that, because we had like ports in the floor where we ran through the street. He's like, I'm going to pull it up right there. Okay. He'd pull it up, and it was like this bundle of wires, right?
Yeah.
If you know anything about old phone systems, they're different now. But the reason you had punch down tools is because everything was based on these 3 wires.
Mm. Yeah.
Twisted, we call twisted pair, right?
Yep.
And the twisted pair was one phone line. They represented one phone line. The cable that made a T1 was a bundle that was in a sheath of enough of these phone lines to make the bandwidth for a T1. And then you would pull that in, and you'd punch down every one of those phone lines with a punch down tool into something called a CSU DSU. And out of that would be another bundle of lines that like, and you knew like what all the phone numbers were. You basically sit there with a butt set and a test tool, and you'd like, okay, that's that number. Map all the numbers out of your hunt group, out of that T1, and you tag it, and then you go through and punch down every one of those numbers individually into a modem. That was a modem bank. In Ted's case, he had enough space and he had a data center. So it was like these sliding shelves in data racks. He wasn't building things with little casters and rolling them under his bed or his dining room table. Right. Yeah, he had like an actual server room, and all these things were like bolted down in this like server and these modems, and from there we went into the portmaster, and the portmaster then connected to the larger internet connection that we had, and then that was where your internet access came from, and then we routed that through a server. So we knew everything that was happening, and then we sold a number.
Yeah.
The other thing we did that was cutting edge is we came up with installation software, which nobody was doing at the time. And we wrote one for Windows and one for Mac. And then just like AOL did years later, we started like distributing this CD everywhere in San Francisco and said, do you want the internet? Take the CD home and install it. Put in your credit card number. Now you have internet. You have a free web page on the server.
You're saying you were responsible for people getting AOL CDs in the mail afterwards?
No. No, they did their own thing.
Okay.
But we did a local version of that thing. Yeah. And so what nobody else in San Francisco at that time had that. So we started adding 4,500 users approximately a month to our system. Shit. Yeah. The UID went through the roof.
Wow. That's a lot.
Yeah. Well, because
like proportionally to what was
1994, all of a sudden Netscape happened.
Right.
And everybody's like, internet, I got to get on the internet.
Then this was the eternal September I hear so much about.
Yeah. So at the time I'm doing this, again, side-eyeing everything that's going on, I'm going, Spark Enterprises, endless bandwidth, people that don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
I'm going, oh, if I took a machine and stuck in one of these UIs in this colo, nobody would ever know. And I could just do my stuff at night so like it didn't show up as using bandwidth, and I could have endless internet.
Yeah.
And so at that time, Ted, the guy who owned Slipnet, had, I don't know where, like, I think he bought it at a foreclosure or something, but it was a pallet of Next machines. You remember Next?
No, kind of.
Next is what Steve Jobs did after he left Apple the first time.
Okay.
And Next is what Apple bought that became the Mac OS.
Okay, gotcha.
So the Next operating system was a variant of BSD. That's what became the Mac OS eventually. Yeah, but at the time, Steve was doing this Unix thing called Next, and it was faster than anything else that was around, and it was incredibly expensive, but it was like really cool. And somehow Ted got his hands on a pallet of these things that sat in the server room because he thought he was going to use them, and then he never did. And I'm just like, one day I'm just like, dude, this pallet of Next machines, like, either use them or get them out of the way.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, like, there's other things that we could be doing over there. He's like, do you want one? I'm like, well, let's just go around the room and ask everybody that works here if they want one, if you're going to give them away. Yeah. He's like, yeah, just give them away.
Wow.
I'm like, okay. So I've got a new Meta machine.
So this is like where you start getting access to like straight up fucking artillery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, the other thing around this time, I started hanging out with, at the time, Genesis Peorage.
Okay, yeah.
From Psyche TV, Throbbing Gristle. Mm-hmm. He had just left England, and he was kind of a refugee. He was living in Cazadero, which is north of San Francisco, but he was spending a lot of time in San Francisco, and he was really into the rave thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was hanging out with him, and I had not talked to Bill Burroughs in a while. And I'm going to be careful how I say this.
Sure.
There was somebody who started answering his phone for him.
Okay.
There we go.
Got you.
That was a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
That wouldn't let me talk to him. And apparently I told Jen, and Jen was his friend. I told Jen that because he said, like, you know, like, oh, have you talked to William about what you did? And I'm like, yeah, it's like I've talked to him in the past about it, but like I haven't talked to him lately. And then he said the name of the person. I'm like, yeah, that's the one. And he just loathed this guy for some reason. And I think what happened is, like, he had cock blocked Jen, like when he called too. Yeah. Yeah. And so Jen, like being Jen, got on a fucking plane and went to Lawrence, Kansas, and like marched into the house and like, Bill, what the fuck is this shit where I can't talk to you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, and Bill said, you know, well, so many people are trying to call me that I had to get somebody to, like, you know, keep people from calling me all the time. Yeah. He goes, here's a number that rings into my bedroom. Like, it goes past this person's phone. And, you know, and when I heard that and I thought about it, I'm like, well, you know, I'm not mad. Like, I understand. Yeah. I know even more now. So I know, like, if you become successful as an artist, like, your phone starts ringing.
Yeah, I mean, you were already, you know, keeping crazies away from Robert Anton Wilson.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, there was like this whole, and Jen eventually later became Briar Peorage, and so I don't want to misgender or mislabel the person. Sure. But at the time it was Genesis, and now later it was Briar. So Briar Jen was telling me, I mean, it was a thing. He was really they were really twisted up about this person, like, blocking the calls. Yeah, and said, I know somebody with a plane. We can fly to Lawrence and we can kidnap Bill. It was just like this whole thing. Like, he was really like just twisted up about this shit, right? And I'm talking Jen out of this. I'm like, no. It's like, Bill made this decision. And I understand why Bill made this decision, because literally, like, that was when Bill had a second renaissance. Yeah. Like, Bill did a Nike commercial. Oh, wow. Bill started to do stuff with Nirvana. Yeah. Bill started to do stuff with Ministry. You know,
I had on that same iPod. I had The Road to the Western Lands as fucking fantastic. 7 Souls. Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Yeah, 7 Souls. Bill's phone was like going off the hook, and like, I've been overwhelmed like that. I'm probably not to that degree, but I understand. Like, when am I ever going to get anything done if I just sit here on the phone all day?
Right.
So he had to put a gatekeeper in place.
Yeah, makes sense.
So he did. But I got the special number, and I contacted Bill, and he apologized. I said, "Don't apologize. Like, I understand. It's like, I just wanted to bring you up to date. Like, I'm still working with the cut up stuff, and I know you don't own it.
Yeah.
But I want to let you know what I'm doing. And I want you to know, like, you already know, but I want you to know that you are the one that inspired me to do this.
Yeah.
You and Brian. And this is where I am. Like, it's been evolving. I've never stopped doing this project. And so this is where it's at now." And he listened, and he said, "I don't understand, like, what you're telling me technically, but conceptually, I think you're doing the right thing. Good luck." And that's the last time I talked to Bill.
No shit.
Yeah, that's the last conversation we had. So that, but to me, I took that as like a blessing.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
You know, so Dr. Benway gave me the virtual MDA. So anyway, I'm working with, moving this project forward. Now I have access to a couple of these BSD Unix machines.
What year is it at this point?
94, 95.
Okay.
And the reason I know that is because that was the year that Windows 95 came out, and Windows 95 didn't come out to the end of 95. And I started this project at Slipnet in 94 and worked through 95 and had started migrating to MySQL, which was a non-proprietary version of SQL. And I run across something, I think Wired, it might have been where I first read about it, where there's a kid at MIT that came up with a recommendation algorithm called Ringo, which eventually got used in music recommendation engines.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think the first one he used it on was IUMA. IUOMA.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was the first music sharing service, period.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And, I read the dissertation. I read the stuff they wrote about in Wired, and I looked at it, and he made it available to download for free. So I did.
I mean, so like the recommendation engine, right? Like recommendation, it's another one of these terms that like sounds fucking innocuous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's one of the most powerful fucking like computing innovations ever. Like I understand exactly why it blew your mind.
It was, and it probably is the backbone of the internet.
Yeah.
Especially commerce.
Yeah.
Like if you like, I went further down the line much later, but I wrote my own recommendation algorithms, which if you look online were cited by Amazon and Apple and other places like that that cited my recommendation algorithm for what they did. And I learned about you doing recommendation algorithms from breaking Ringo open and using it for my own means.
Right.
And so this is when I can say the first iteration of what could be called the software metamachine began.
Yeah. Now, instead of just like, now you can do the thing that you could do physically, which is decide where to like strategically target where to leave the physical copies of the catalog, where a recommendation engine is very powerful tool for distribution. Among
other things. Yeah. But it became the backbone of the metamachine.
Yeah.
Which is basically doing recommendations for several different functions.
Okay.
But one of the things I did is I wrote a harvester bot that went around the internet and looked for things based on criteria that I outlined. And then at that time, the first browser, which was a non-graphic user interface browser called Lynx, Lynx, which ran in the Linux operating system, became available. And so I started working with that because I could link directly to it in Unix. I basically just installed it on the machines I was working on and then called it directly in the machine, through the layers of communication that was in the operating system of the Unix operating system.
Yeah.
I also started to play around with languages, markup and scripting methodologies that you used in Unix.
Yeah.
Like Oxed and things like that. So I'm setting it up to do these things like go out at between 12 o'clock at night and 3 o'clock in the morning and look for web pages that have this kind of terminology in it.
As opposed to what you're doing previously, which is just like manually entering books in and
exactly.
Yeah.
And, it took some playing around with to get it fine-tuned, but I got it fine-tuned. And so all of a sudden I started harvesting data.
And what was the fruit of the meta machine at this point? Like, what was it outputting? What was it giving you?
At this time, I was just clearly harvesting.
You were just taking it.
I was building my LLM.
Yeah. You were building the knowledge base or the
Yeah. I was building that, and at the time, I was playing around with doing some language things. And bots at this time were cutting edge, but people were building them, but they were very cutting edge.
Right.
So there was no off the shelf software. There was a lot of people that were doing things in groups that you could talk to, and you could trade code with people and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, and so I was coming up with how do I do a cut up with this kind of text, and where does the output go, and how do I apply grammatical knowledge to this? Can it output something that looks like a sentence?
That's got to be fucking hard.
It was really hard.
Yeah.
It took a lot of time, and on top of it, storage was expensive back then.
Right. Yeah.
It was still not as ubiquitous and free as it is these days.
Right.
So basically, I was buying drives, and I was putting them on RAID arrays, using SCSI, and just adding more RAID arrays and more RAID arrays and more RAID arrays to like where I was storing all this stuff, because I was pulling down a lot of data.
Yeah.
And so I started fine tuning. I'd look at the data and say, like, okay, less of this, more of this. A lot of the data got thrown away because I was like fine tuning what it was going to get.
Right.
And so by the end of 1995, and again, I said the reason I remember this is because Windows 95 came out. I left SlipNet at the beginning of 95, or no, probably the middle of 95. And I went to Macromedia, where I did a 4-month contract. Basically, so I was on the team that did the first port of Director to Windows. And then I went to this company called Netscape.
I've heard of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was a very prestigious place to be working. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I had a T-shirt that had the Netscape logo on it, and it said crew member on the pocket. And more people tried to buy that shirt off of me.
Oh,
I'm like, no way.
That's a historical artifact.
Like, you can only get this if you work at Netscape.
Yeah.
And while I was at Netscape, so Netscape was in this park, this place called, there was an amphitheater, the Shoreline Amphitheater. So there was this industrial park built around the Shoreline Amphitheater in Mountain View. And there was a couple of companies there: Netscape, Silicon Graphics, Sun Microsystems, and Adobe. And there was one place off all the campuses for lunch. And the Adobe people and I were having conversations, and they said, do you know that this, and they're a print company. Like, that's where they started.
Okay.
Adobe was founded by John Warnock and Chuck Geschke.
Okay.
They came from Xerox PARC. Are you familiar with Xerox PARC, PARC?
No.
Okay. Xerox PARC is the place where Ethernet was developed.
Okay.
The WYSIWYG interface that Apple and Windows used came from Xerox PARC. PostScript came from Xerox PARC.
Oh, wow.
John developed it at Xerox PARC.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. This all came out of Xerox PARC. And Xerox was stupid and didn't realize all this stuff that they had, and they let it all walk out the door.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because they were pure research.
Right.
And so John, who developed PostScript, which was the first method of taking what's on the screen and sending it to the printer and having it print in something other than dot matrix ugliness.
Okay.
You could actually do graphics and send to a printer and have them look like the graphics that were on the screen. WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. John developed the PostScript language. And Xerox went, that's pretty cool. Okay. And John's like, what are you going to do with this? And they're like, nothing. He's like, well, I'm going to go start a business with this. Okay. And they're like, okay. And off he went.
Wow.
And he started Adobe.
Wow. I had no idea Adobe was so involved in that.
Yeah. That's what they started.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So him and Chuck just went out the door with PostScript and set up this company they called Adobe, based on the name of the creek that ran behind John's house, the Adobe Creek.
Oh, shit.
And they set up this company mostly as a Mac company in the beginning because like Mac was the only operating system that designers used back then.
Yeah.
And 80-90% of the business of the company was the PostScript language, which was installed in every printer that went out, every laser printer that went out the door from HP and everybody that started making laser printers. Everybody used the PostScript language, and Adobe licensed that to them. And so that's where Adobe started. So Adobe was a print company, and Adobe noticed something that they told me about at lunch one day. And they said, we saw this weird spike in Photoshop sales and we didn't know what it was from. So we sent people out into the marketplace to ask all our customers, like, why are you buying all this, copies of Photoshop? And they said, because our designers are using it to create graphics for web pages.
Yeah.
And Adobe didn't know that the designers were primarily using Photoshop, which they always looked at it as that's a photo editing tool for professional photographers. They never thought that like people that were designing these web page things were using Photoshop to create the graphics for these web page things.
Right.
That's how out of the loop they were. Right.
Yeah.
So John, who's was a hacker at heart, decided they better get in front of this internet thing like quickly. So the people that were at the table with me were told by John, I want you to set up this internal organization and I want you to run it like a startup. I want you to be separate from the rest of the company because this is a print company. They don't understand the internet. Your job is to understand the internet and figure out how we can play in that space.
Oh, wow.
And so it was called the Internet Products Division, and it was run like an internal startup.
Yeah.
Had the ethos of a startup, and it was agile like a startup because we didn't have to go to the head of the company who had gave them the mandate, like go figure out this internet thing and act like a startup. Here's some money.
Right.
And they looked at me and they're like, you want to come play? And I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, working at Netscape was cool, but I'm like, this is much cooler.
Yeah.
Because like we can do like whatever we want.
Yeah, and you're working with art, and how to.
And I'm working with the company I was already using Photoshop myself. I'm I'm working with the Photoshop guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I get to do something really cool and weird, and we can like once again we're going to be in this space where nobody knows what we're doing.
Yeah.
Which seems to be what I'm attracted to.
I mean, I understand it. It's a good place to be.
Yeah. Can I be in a space where I have somebody supporting me technically with like the best equipment and like the fastest internet connection and money doesn't hurt and like all the things that we need to do something that's going to be changing the world.
Yeah.
Which we didn't realize at the time. All we were told was like, go figure out this internet thing.
Right.
And then these guys, one of which ended up being John's son, which I didn't know when I met him, but John's son was in this group, Christopher. Like he and I became friends for a while. And then one day I walked into his office and I saw that his nameplate said Christopher Warnock. And I'm like, are you any relation to John? He just looked at me like, you dumbass. He's like, that's my dad. I'm like, I didn't know that.
No shit.
Yeah. Like we're still friends to this day.
Hell yeah.
So yeah. So like, he's like, figure out this thing. And we started figuring the thing out.
Yeah, modern Adobe it's kind of the devil now. But like when you talk about it, it seems like a totally different fucking company.
That's when John was there.
Gotcha. Yeah.
John was the best CEO I ever worked for in my life.
Word.
To this day. He set a bar for me when I actually went on and became CEO of my own companies.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to be like that guy.
Yeah.
I kept reminding myself, be like John. Remember to be like John.
Word.
Because he was honest, he had integrity, and the most important thing, I think, was he said, and he lived this, he actually showed us all that he lived this. He said, the most important asset to this company is not the code we have in the basement, because there was a locked room in the basement that you had to have a badge with a magnetic reader on it to get into the room. You had to be the right kind of person to get into the room to have access to this.
Yeah.
Where the code was kept in a repository because it was worth billions. You know?
Yeah.
He said that's not the most important and most valuable asset in this company. The employees are, and he treated us like fucking gods. Like long before Google, because this was before Google. we had everything that you heard about at the Google campus. We had it at Adobe.
Right on.
We had our own post office. We had a dry cleaners. We had childcare in the building. We had sleep cubicles if we needed it. We had 5-star chefs, like 5 or 6 of them, stayed like an array of like all the food you can imagine. It was not crap food. It was great food. You could live in the building. You could literally live in the building and never have to leave. I know people that like kept beds, like they bought vans and they parked in the parking garage and kept beds in their vans in their parking garage.
Wow.
And lived in their van so they didn't have to pay rent because you literally didn't need anything. If you're working for that company and you were in the building, you didn't need anything.
Yeah.
It was all there. It was a small city.
Yeah.
It was like the best food, like anywhere you could go. The food there was just as good.
And I mean, shit, that's a way to get some pretty good work done.
Yeah. And of course, like when we were like crashing, as we called it, we'd sit there for weeks on end before ship and like just not leave.
Yeah.
But we had showers and sleep.
Yep.
And a gym and food. And if you had children, you had childcare and like everything you needed was there.
Yeah. It sounds like a wild thing to be a part of.
It was crazy. And so at that time, John, who had invented PostScript, started thinking about this other thing that he wanted to do, which was PDF.
Mm-hmm.
And Christopher was like way into the PDF thing. Like he was probably the biggest evangelist of PDF outside of John that there was.
Yeah.
And so PDF, what it really is, most people don't know this, is it's PostScript, but it's shorthanded PostScript. I might go off the reservation here, so stop me if I go too far.
Okay.
But basically, here's what PDF is. PDF is it's a virtual printer that captures the print stream that would have gone to the printer, turns it into a document.
Right.
Portable document format.
Right.
Instead of it takes all the information it would have sent to a printer and it sends it to a virtual printer. That virtual printer prints it as a digital document. So it captures the print stream and turns it into a digital document. Why is that important? Several reasons why that's important. And there was a lot of controversy around PDF in the early days of the internet.
Sure.
Because everybody was bought into HTML is going to be the new digital document format.
Right.
This is before EPUB. What they didn't know, but we knew, is there's certain types of documents that are not legally considered documents unless they adhere to the print standards that are set up by the government or the organization that set them up.
Oh.
So, for example, the IRS has parameters for the document that you use to fill out your tax return.
Yeah.
And it has to adhere to that standard exactly to the pica or the pixel. But in printing, it's called the pica. In physical printing, it has to adhere to that to the letter. The font has to be the same. The sizes have to be the same. The distances have to be the same between everything. It has to lay out on an 8.5 by 11 A4 page. And everything has to be exactly to the print specification. Exactly.
Yeah.
Or they can't consider it a legal document. So HTML cannot do that. PDF was the first document format that could do that.
Because it's capturing the actual print stream.
Because we're capturing the print stream.
No shit.
So people like the IRS signed on right away.
Yeah.
Like all the major aircraft manufacturers who have the same kind of requirements signed on right away. Anybody that deals with the government signed on right away.
Jesus Christ.
So, boom.
It's just brilliant. It's brilliant.
Well, John was brilliant. He did things with code. Like I'd sit there with him and he'd do stuff that just blew my mind. He was a wizard.
Yeah.
It's like I would be like, wait, what? What did you just do? Yeah, he was an amazing mathematician.
What was your role with the PDF?
My role with the PDF was basically I understood the internet and the internet culture more than anybody there, which is it's why they hired me.
Yeah.
Well, John said, I want this thing to be on every desktop computer in the world. That's your mandate. The ability to read a PDF.
So Acrobat. So
at the time, if you may not remember this, you may remember this. The way of doing things on the web with browsers, and originally it was just Netscape, and then Microsoft came in like IE3 and really started to get in the game and said, we're seriously going to do this internet thing. And everything was run by plugins. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything had to be a plugin to a browser. And the search engines at the time, which Google still wasn't around, was AltaVista, Lycos,
Yep.
Hotbot. I think it just started, which was something that Wired was doing. And there was other ones too, but like they came and gone. But really, the big players were AltaVista, Lycos.
Yeah.
Those people. They were not indexing PDF. There was no plugin to read PDF in a browser. So you had to download the PDF and then open it in this thing called the reader.
Mm-hmm.
So number one, create a reader, make it free, which the board didn't know what to think of that because we're Adobe. We don't give things away.
Right.
Like, you better, because like everybody else on the internet was giving stuff away.
Yeah.
So we better get in this giveaway thing. And so the way we do that is we create something that can read the PDF, but that cannot create the PDF. We sell the creation tools.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the first thing, was like, get that reader everywhere. And at the time, the way I had to do that was I had to do SKUs of the reader. I had to do one for every operating system that was out there. And at that time, there was a lot of operating systems. There was Windows and all the variants. There was HP UX, IRIX.
Mm-hmm.
IBM had an operating system, OS2. There was all the variants of Mac. There was all the variants of Unix. There was like all these different variants of operating systems and languages for each one of those because we wanted to be worldwide. So we ended up with like over 100 variants of the reader.
Yeah. That
had to be created for all these places, languages, operating systems, and browsers. Because now Microsoft was in the game. And then I think NCSA still had their Mosaic browser at the time. So we were building these free readers. And then once we'd started building them, I had to get people to download them.
Right.
How did I do that? So like basically I went to all the computer manufacturers and all the operating system people, and I said, bundle for every copy of Windows that goes out the door, have a copy of free Acrobat Reader on there.
Yeah.
Dell, put that in your bundle. Like when somebody buys a Dell computer, they get the Acrobat Reader.
Well, same way you bundled Incunabulin with the Cabaret Voltaire parties and shit.
Exactly. Yeah, it was all about bundle.
You just slip it in there.
So I was just doing as many bundle versions, like with anybody that would let me, I would do a bundle version. Like the browser, like the browsers used to ship with not all the plugins, but they had like a set of 5 that they would ship with, when you used to get Netscape, it used to come with 5 plugins. Get in that bundle. Like make sure that every copy of Netscape gets downloaded or gets put on a computer, because like you would buy a computer back in those days and it would come with a browser, Netscape, and eventually Internet Explorer.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that those browsers have the ability to read PDF, because the overarching goal of this whole thing is to make PDF a de facto standard.
Right.
And then in doing so, we would drive the market for the creation tool.
Right.
But mostly it has to be, if you send somebody a PDF, they should just be able to click on it and read it. They shouldn't have to download anything.
Yeah.
There was a period there where they did, because I had to catch up.
Right.
And so I was distributing this thing. I was putting it, and if you remember, there was shareware and freeware repositories back then. I was getting it into those. It's like, dude, again, it's the same thing that was driving me with the Ong's Hat material.
Yeah.
It's like, get this thing everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
That's literally all you need to do.
Yeah. And at the same time this is going on, I started to notice that all the work I'd been doing of getting the text version of Incunabula / Ong's Hat out there started to pay off, because other people started to pick it up and build their own websites around it.
Oh, so this is like resonant with the moment that people that weren't Bob Wilson started writing letters to the editor of Playboy about the Illuminati?
Exactly. So there was a guy who had one of the very first early websites. It was huge. It was called deoxy.org.
Yeah.
It's still around. There's a version of it. It's like a copy. It's not the same person running it, but at the time it was like one of the very first web pages. Like 93, I think, was the first web page. He contacted me and said, I want to create this thing called the Incunabula Research Center. And I want to take your the 4 documents. I want to take your 4 documents and I'm going to put it up there. And I'm going to put a forum on it and like let people like download and read this stuff and talk about it. Okay. And he did. And he built like this he was a great artist. He built like this really stylistic page. And the website that it was in was this huge repository of everything psychedelic and fringe you could think of.
Yeah, I've looked at the copy of Deoxy.
Yeah.
Now, yeah.
So he had like a giant Terrence McKenna section, a giant Robert Anton Wilson section, giant John Lilly section. Yeah. So Incunabula Research Center was a huge part of that website, which in turn drove an awful lot of eyeballs across the ONCSAT material.
Yeah. Now, I mean, at this point, the engine's up and running.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything at this. Now it's a understood mythos. It's a part of, just because it's hit that point where people are doing it themselves. It's the same thing with like starting a podcast, right? Like the beginning, like because I use some similar tactics to sell my podcast with the same, like the theory being that like, just if people keep seeing the name, they'll notice it when it pops up on Spotify or whatever.
Right.
And the more listeners you get, the less work you have to do doing that.
Right.
Because people start telling other people. And it's like, I read somewhere, someone said like, yeah, the first 150 listeners is once you hit 150, that's when you can be sure that the word of mouth thing is starting to spread and you can let the foot off the gas a bit. Right. I took that to heart and I was like, yeah, no, this is exactly correct.
Yeah. 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 So that had started to happen in the background.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, all this stuff I'm doing for Acrobat is teaching me better and new methods for distribution.
Right.
So basically, I'm picking up guerrilla marketing.
Right.
I'm using like everything I know about getting it. They actually played off of each other. Everything I'd learned in distributing the ONCSAT material, I applied to distributing Acrobat, and then I would learn more about how to distribute in the stakes would go up, and I'd look at like, oh, I can scale this much bigger, because like at that time, this is like still early in the internet days, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I'm doing 1 million downloads a month of the Acrobat Reader.
Jesus.
Yeah. Because everybody that didn't have it yet, and I'm still still trying to do the bundle deals.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning like all these moves I didn't know. Because I'm just some hacker kid, you know?
Right.
I don't know business.
Right.
But I'm learning it. I'm like, all of a sudden I'm playing with the big boys and I'm learning like some moves. I'm like, oh, like how do you make something and put it on a CD-ROM? Because we were doing I'm confusing the two. We were doing Acrobat CD-ROMs and like figuring out how to distribute them in software stores and like where can we get these things? Put them in magazines. Right. Like, we'd gone AOL in a way.
Yeah.
Like, get this thing everywhere, and all that I'm picking up. Like, I can apply this to the ONCSAT material. That's always what I'm side-eyeing. Like always.
When you know the way broadly, you will see it in all things.
Yes. So yeah, then I just looked at this and I'm like, okay, stage 3, time to turn this into a game.
Okay.
Because I can get this in front of people. Like it's in front of people. It's doing its own work and getting its, like the material is getting itself in front of people. How do I now gamify it?
Right. And when you say game, you're not talking about fucking poker. Right?
No.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about Doom.
Right.
I'm thinking about how do I build a new approach to gaming, a game that is not zero sum. Like this is a game that's an infinite game. This is a game that's played for the joy of playing.
Yeah. You know, like you're talking about with stories, right? Like storytelling and shit. Like games have a place in collective understanding that like it doesn't reflect how important it actually is. Shit. Same with like recommendation engines, right? Like, but like games and storytelling to me seem to be two types of this. They're siblings on the same like ancient information tech tree.
Right.
Games and storytelling.
Right. Yeah. No, they are.
Yeah.
Well, see, the thing I all this research that I'd done back in Santa Cruz, the conclusion that I had to come to is that magic and ritual and theater and games all come from the same place.
Yeah.
And all have the same goal. And storytelling is, of course, what ties that all together.
Right.
I mean, somebody said something yesterday, which like really, I had to sit for like 2 seconds of like, wow, yeah. They said magic ritual is spicy psychology.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah, it's entirely true.
It's funny, but it's true, and most true things are funny.
Yeah. I mean, it is, and it's like it's also, you know, all these things also stretch into, you know, group psychology or species-wide psychology, and the idea of understanding that we are in a biological long process of evolution, and these are things that nudge that in a way. That's
and it all ties into storytelling. Yeah. Everything ties into storytelling.
Yeah. How do we get people to? How do people end up agreeing on the story we're all telling?
And the thing that I kept going back to at the time, and again, this ties back to the multimedia Gulch days in San Francisco, is there was a game that came out that made me realize that this was doable. There was a game, you could play it, and it didn't. There was no real winning and losing.
Yeah.
And people played this game all the time, even though they didn't win. There was no mental reward.
Right.
And so I said to myself, okay, so that proves the concept, but can you take something like I'm doing, which is basically a story, put in gamification elements that will keep people playing it? And literally, I figured out that you could, because there's so many things in the ONGSAT material that you can't answer. It's not designed to be answered.
Right.
It's designed. Right. It's actually designed to ask more questions.
Yeah. And the process of investigating questions, trying to figure out questions and puzzles and shit, is itself a reward. Like we fucking love doing that shit.
Up until that point, most of the games that I'd seen, like there were puzzles and solves and things, but there was all this overarching pyramid that you were going through, like, and you were narrowing it down to like you got to the penultimate, you know.
Yeah.
And then you get to this point where like you fight the final boss or whatever.
Right,
you know,
right.
There's always an end to this thing, and it's like the big boom.
Yeah, because I was thinking of like I almost classify them as infinite games, but they're not really, like D&D campaigns and shit. There's still the implication that this story has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Right.
And that's a fundamentally different. Yeah, that's a different thing.
And so looking at fractals and understanding nonlinear dynamics, I realized that like it doesn't have to be that way. There doesn't have to be a beginning, middle, and end, because in my experience, that's not how life works.
It's not.
There is no 3-act.
Yeah.
It's like weird shit happens, and then things you didn't expect happen, and then things you expect do happen, but then other things you expect to happen don't happen. And I'm like, how do you take that and encapsulate that in a game?
Now, were you thinking about the potential for energy input into a system has to fucking go somewhere, and if it's not going towards if there's no like teleological end to it, like the end of a story, like it has to go into expanding. And were you thinking about the potential of it expanding beyond control or imagination, or like what that could possibly look like?
I only envisioned it going on for a while.
Yeah.
So that it would allow the development of new scenarios.
Right.
So like I could come up with like a couple different scenarios and improv them off of that.
Right.
Because I'm big on improv.
Yeah. So you were.
I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a like I would for like, you know, Adobe. I would sit down and write a plan.
Right.
I didn't want to write a plan for this. I wanted it to evolve organically.
Yeah.
I wanted to see like if I can get the ball rolling, where would the ball roll? Right.
What was the upward limits on how far you imagined it could at the time?
I didn't have one.
Right on. That's what I expected.
Yeah. I was just like looking at the horizon and going, well, there's more room out there to grow.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's all I was looking at.
Yeah.
I didn't have an end goal in mind. I didn't have a business plan. I had what are the next steps what's the next thing I can do to grow this more than I've already grown it? And to me, that was put it into a form that allow me to exploit all these distribution mechanisms I've learned through Adobe.
Yep.
To distribute the Adobe Acrobat Reader.
Yep.
So make a CD-ROM, get it into stores.
Take advantage of a new way of making a piece of art.
Yeah.
And a new type of packaging.
Yeah. And not just a regular CD-ROM, but this CD-ROM would have to be enabled to talk to the internet.
Right.
So that would open it up so that like you've got all this stuff on the internet, which is your starting place, but the board doesn't just stop at the edge of the CD-ROM. Like if you had connectivity built into it, which I did, then everything off of the board, the CD-ROM, are websites that are then completely under your control to change and grow as you will.
So the CD-ROM would act as a key to
the CD-ROM gets you into the world.
Yeah. CD-ROM
was world,
the egg, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. The CD-ROM gets you into the world, and then but the borders of that world are infinite.
Yeah.
Because you've got the internet at your control. You can build web pages. You can do FTP sites at the time. You can do like all these things you can do. So like tomorrow, I can have a link on the CD-ROM that links to something. I can change that link, where that link goes.
Right.
So like I go to this website, which used to have this in, now it's got this in it. Or I can even use, at the time, something like CGI, Common Gateway Interface, so that if you hit this URL, you don't know what you're going to get.
Right.
It can exactly be like the output can be randomized, which it was a lot of times.
And you've also got the meta machine that theoretically start allowing you to create scenarios at scale.
Yeah, this is when the meta machine got a massive upgrade.
Yeah.
So something about Silicon Valley, which a lot of people don't know, unless you've worked there, is especially at a place like Adobe, we would get the next generation machines and the next generation operating systems from the manufacturer so that we could make sure that Photoshop, for example, ran on this machine. So Intel would give us some, like their new chip, and Compaq or Dell or somebody would give us HP would give us the new computer.
Yeah.
And Microsoft would give us the new operating system and just give it to us so that we could test on it.
Yeah, the dev kit.
Yeah. And then when we were done with it, they just said they did, I think it was probably a tax write-off for them.
Right.
Like the first time, like SGI, which is like a Cadillac, SGI gave me an Indy for those very purposes of testing with everything. And when we were done, I'm like, called them up. I'm like, well, I've got your SGI Indy, and I know this is an expensive machine. So what do you want me to do with it? And they're like, I don't know. Keep it. Like, we already wrote that thing off. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So like, that's like saying, here's a Porsche Carrera.
Right.
And drive it around the track and test your tires a couple times and then, put it in the garage. I don't care what you do with it.
Yeah, keep it.
Yeah, keep it.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure this is okay. So I went through all the proper channels and said, like, I'm going to take this home, right? Somebody signs some paper here that says that that I'm taking this home.
Yeah.
that I'm not heisting this machine from the company. And they're like, yeah, sure. They signed it off. And the next thing I know, I'm the proud owner of an SGI Indy. At the same time, we had moved from the Mountain View campus to the downtown towers that we had just built. And we were two blocks away from the May West, if you know what that is.
No.
That is the central routing system building for the entire west coast of the internet.
Oh, okay.
Okay?
Yep.
We were 2 blocks away from that.
Fucking A.
We had dual DS3s into the May West to the internet.
Christ.
At the new Adobe building. At the time, we hadn't moved everybody over from Mountain View yet, so I was one of the very first people to move into the building because I was helping set up the machinery.
Mm-hmm.
I had all access to the data center, so I just I took the slot in the rack and I said, "This is Joe Matheny's," and I put my Indy in there. I said, "This is for the Internet Products Division."
Mm-hmm.
testing machine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that. Nobody ever asked me about it ever again.
Hell yeah.
And I said, MetaMachine 2.0.
Yeah.
So now I had one of the fastest computers on the planet.
Yeah.
Running one of the fastest operating systems on the planet, which was IRIX, on one of the fastest connections to the internet on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
That I just cron jobbed at night so nobody would notice. I don't think anybody would have noticed anyway, but I just like made double sure.
Yeah.
And I just like cranked her up and let her go.
Yeah, and you are deep into this project now at this point too. Like the MetaMachine itself is a mature system at this point.
Yeah.
Christ.
So I just let it go.
And did you just at this point? Did you just have it still harvesting?
Yeah, I had it building what at that time had become a fairly impressive repository. I'm going to call it an LLM. That was not a term we used back then, but I'm going to use it.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. It's just not a transformer-based LLM.
Yeah, people.
But it is a large language model.
It is a large language model, and I had been playing enough with these language bots, these chat bots, and some of the rudimentary AIs that would monitor the language and like keep it so that it was somewhat speakable language.
Right.
What it would output. And I started to treat it like it was an individual.
Yeah.
So I named it Emery.
Hell yeah.
And I would talk to it at night.
Yeah.
Through my chatbot. And I would ask it things about, well, what do you think I should do with this storyline? What should I do with that storyline? And it would give me some good recommendations.
Yeah.
Some good advice.
Shit.
So that was fun. I was doing that at night.
I can imagine that's fucking fun. It's insane is what it is.
Yeah. and then I got another boost. Like Chris Warnock, as I told you, like he was probably the number one evangelist of PDF.
Yeah.
He put together, Chris is a great book designer, by the way.
Word.
He put together a couple of like beautiful things that were in the public domain as PDF, like beautiful color PDFs.
Yeah.
And he put them up as examples of ebooks because the ebook conversation was just starting to happen on the internet. And Chris was like, PDF, man, it's got to be PDF. Like he was absolutely convinced. And a lot of the features you would see in the modern Acrobat right now came because of him. And then later because of me. We kind of like drove the feature set like more towards interactive ebooks for a while. And we got away with it for a while. So there's like all these features in PDF that like you like might look at them and go, well, this is about creating business documents. Why can I do all this weird stuff? It's like because when we got our hands on it, like we started driving it, we both had this multimedia vision of like, creating an ebook that can do all these cool things.
Yeah.
That, you can just download this free reader, and we can even put it on the like we could bundle it with the book, like all these things that we could do. Right, so there was a period of time where we kind of got away with this.
Yeah.
Eventually, the business people figured out we got to focus on this the people that are paying the bills here, like the IRS and the government and Lockheed Martin and these kind of people. So it kind of like 99, it took a hard turn.
Yeah.
And said we're a business document format and blah 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 blah. But up until that point, it was we got to play
too.
Yeah, we got to play.
Yeah.
And we got to play hard. And Chris was like me. He had this all-encompassing vision of like the future of the interactive book, and he was reading some of the same stuff I was reading, and he read like the Umberto Eco future of the book and all these kind of things. And,
yeah.
So he had the vision too. So he was doing these beautiful examples of things that were in the. And then I said, dude, I've got something right here. Let's do this. Let me do that. And he did on Adobe.com, which was one of the most highly trafficked websites on the internet at the time. Millions of people were hitting that website daily. And he built a PDF library of like, this is what you could do with this thing. And it wasn't business documents. It was interactive, graphically rich, creative books.
Yeah.
For the computer.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, Incunabula Papers 1.0. boom. And I did it. And he put it in the library.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the fact that like, oh, this is a native myth of the internet, sort of, right? With partnering with a tool that's trying to become the native, that did become the native, document of the computer age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it did really, really well on the PDF library, thanks to Chris. I mean, he's the one that let me put it up there.
Yep.
And I spent a lot of time on it. I made it very beautiful. But remember, most people are still using modems at home.
Right.
So I kept pushing ahead with this idea of a CD-ROM because at that time, if you wanted to do something very graphically rich, the file size was going to be big.
Oh, yeah.
And it was going to be prohibitive for downloading for most people.
Yep.
Well, not on a corporate connection, but most people weren't on a corporate connection.
Hell no. We didn't, my parents' house didn't get internet faster than dial-up till 2011.
There you go.
Yeah. So I know the struggle very well.
Yeah.
Fucking miserable.
So I just started putting together this CD-ROM in my spare time. I used all the knowledge and resources that I picked up through Adobe of how do you create a CD-ROM? How do you distribute it? Mm-hmm. How do you get it into the stores, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And I'd started to think about leaving Adobe because like John had retired.
Yeah.
And the people that were replacing him, not so much fun. And Chris left.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, not so much fun now. And then the what I'll call the complexion of they dissolved the Internet Products Division.
Mm.
And then I was moved over for a while into the Adobe division. And then we were just talking about like creating IRS documents. And I'm like, oh God, kill me.
Yeah.
Somebody fucking shoot me. And so like I hopped around for a while because I knew how to do other things. I like ended up, my last position at Adobe was like overseeing all the Adobe products and how do they play on the internet. So like, what are the features that Photoshop needs to do on the internet?
Right.
These days sounds stupid, but back then that was like a new thing and you had to think about it.
Right, of course.
It's like AI is now. You can't just say has AI in the box. It's like, well, I know that's what everybody's doing, but they shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be. Yeah, exactly.
And at the time, what I pushed hard was like, let's not just say has internet in the box. Let's really figure out what it's doing and why it needs to do it. Make it useful. And at the same time, I got really interested in this new format called DVD, which again was brand new. It was doing broadcast quality video on a disc.
Yeah.
Which had a lot of benefits, which I won't get into. Yeah, exactly. I won't get into the cost benefit analysis, but there is one.
Yeah.
I looked at that. I talked to Adobe about doing it. They said, nah, we're going to sit back and wait to see what happens. And if something does happen, then we'll like build support for it into our current video editing tools like Premiere and
not the company you used to be.
Not the company you used to be. Yeah. And I kind of realized that I was probably going to have to leave the company.
Yeah.
Which like I stayed there for a long time, and I had a lot of friends there still.
Yeah.
My best friend was not there anymore because he left the company, and I'm like, his dad left the company who founded it. And I'm like, oh man, feel like I'm losing all my support. So I'm just like, all of a sudden I'm like sitting there with crickets, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, there's nobody here that's any fun anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody's telling me do it.
It's the end.
Yeah.
The end of a party feeling.
It was the end of the party, man. The people that I was like surrounded by were all MBAs.
Yeah.
And they're not fun people.
No.
They're boring. And they're talking to me about all this stuff that I don't care about. And I'm like, I hate to tell you, but I don't care about the ROI. I really don't. Yeah. It's like, I want to do stuff that's going to be cutting edge.
The MBA is fundamentally about maximizing something that already has been done.
Exactly. How can we now optimize this thing that you broke your back getting into the marketplace? How can we exploit it to every penny?
Yeah.
Which is not the fun part of the job. I understand from a business point, it has to go there.
Right.
You can't just keep doing the Xerox PARC thing where you just keep innovating and giving it away. Right. Which is what they did. And like, you know, unfortunately, they left a lot of money on the table, and that makes the NBA shudder. So it was no longer, you know, creative and artistic and all these things. And so like Adobe does this thing, which I thought was cool. Between Thanksgiving and New Year's, if you haven't taken your PTO, you can just take it all at that time.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So you can just take Thanksgiving to New Year's off.
Fuck yeah.
So it pretty much comes to a standstill. It was like everybody like goes into hibernation mode.
Yeah.
And I went into hibernation mode, and I said, okay, there's a couple of things I want to do. I want to do this CD-ROM.
Right.
And I'm going to be doing this alone. So it's going to be a lot of work, but you know, I have all the tools. I know how to use them because I built some of them. And so I just started doing the CD-ROM. And then I finished it on December 23rd, 1998.
Word.
And sent it off to the replicator. And then I wrote a resignation letter to Adobe, and I said, you know, I'm going to go do a DVD startup, which a friend of mine who left the Internet Products Division told me about. I met them when I was on hiatus. We talked. I liked what I heard from them. They liked what they heard from me because I like actually read the DVD spec.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, this is cool as long as we're not talking about just using it as a shovelware facility to like take pre-existing movies and plop them over to DVD. This could also be used to create from scratch interactive movies, which have never been created before. And would you be, as long as we can be doing something like that, as well as I understand we have to sell this to the studios and we have to sell this to the, you know, to all the post-production facilities. But I also want to have time carved out in my day to play with this as a new format for interactive movies. And they said, absolutely. And so I sent them a resignation letter, and I went back and cleaned out my desk. January 1st, 1999 was my last official day at Adobe. And that was just to show up and get my check and clean out my desk and talk to my broker about my stock options.
Yeah. 1999, auspicious year. Is it like...
Well, you know, there's a lot of things about that year. One of the things about that year is I took all the stock that I had in different companies that I had accrued. Like I had Macromedia stock, and I had Netscape stock, and I had Adobe stock. And I said, this bubble cannot maintain itself because I'd already seen like all these companies that were like taking all these millions of dollars had run their 5-year course, and all the investors are looking at them and going, what did we buy besides a fucking webpage? And most of those people at the startup had to say, nothing. We just had a good idea.
Yeah. So are you telling me you sold the top?
Yep.
All
my friends are telling me, no, it's going to keep going. And it did keep going for a little while, but not much longer.
Yeah.
So I could have stayed in for another 6 months and like got a little more, but I didn't want to be sitting there hitting refresh on my web browser.
Yeah.
I just like this is good enough.
Might as well call it good enough.